Saturday Morning Funtime! Brought to you by Fuel Up Hydration System. Fuel Up helps keep you hydrated and energized throughout the day and relaxes you at night. Fuel Up is your 24-hour hydration system. Your show manager is Martin Acosta Santana and John Aaron Schmidt. And your producer is Bill Skywatcher. I'm your announcer, the Comic Relief Crusader. And now, your hosts, Tom and Gerry. Gary.
It's too bad the show's not as good as the intros.
We got to live up to that. We're screwed.
That's it. Stick a fork in me. We're done. Hey guys, it's Saturday and we got Tom here and we're doing our Muppet wave.
Hi. Welcome everybody to the program.
Kermit the Frog here.
We got a good show, yeah.
Wacka, wacka, wacka. And of course the real Muppet on the show is Dust Wolfen. He's got somebody's hand up his ass, working his mouth like a puppet. Brandon is here. How was your show this morning, Brandon?
It was a lot of fun. Got to talk a lot of great anime from the 2010s, and the 2010s is known for one thing, and that's for becoming the harem king. And lots of booba, and lots of jiggle physics, and lots of fan
titillation
service.
Anime. Yeah.
Yes. And there was a ton of it. So yeah,
and
it was
I wasn't even
aware
of that stuff until my daughter was talking about it one day, and I'm like, "You're not even a teen yet. No, you can't watch that." She goes, "Yeah, it's girls," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think about that."
Yeah,
okay.
The show went to TVMA LSV. It contained strong language, violence, and sexual situations, along with pretty close to full bore nudity of the animated variety. So yeah, it was it was an interesting show. But yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a while since I've been able to pop in and say hi.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to see you, man. Shinotsky's here too. Morning, Shinotsky.
Good morning, sir.
And of course, our good friend and manager of the show, Martin Acosta Santana.
Hey, how are you? Oh my fucking God! Look at that!
Yeah.
Look at that cool shit.
Look at that shit.
I love Ghostbusters.
Look at that. Heck yeah. Oh, man. Are you part of the...
Anybody seen a ghost?
You know what, Tom? I realized something. We haven't really had a field test with your equipment yet, so...
Hey, do they copyright those little...
I blame myself.
Yeah, me too. Do you know if they allow or they copyright those documentaries that are on the special features?
I always get claimed every time I've shown like the Show West footage and stuff, so I'm sure they're copyrighted.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to watch after the, as we wrap up at the end, to watch that little making of featurette from, I think they made it in 1984 itself.
There was one clip I used to show once in a while that has like some improv stuff that got cut off the movie. That one never got hit. I'll see if I can find that one. But
that'll be nice. But I really do love this film. 1984 was the year I turned 20, and it was like a big year. 1982 was when I was 18. Then 1984 was a huge year for movies, and 1982 was the year I was able to go to an R-rated movie without my dad, and that was like awesome. And Blade Runner was the first R-rated movie I went to on my own.
Nice.
But, who's all here? Who joined us so far? We've got Comic Relief Crusader is in the chat. Penny is here. Slasher Fred. What do you say? Remember, if there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you going to call? Yeah, there we go. And let's see who else has dropped in. Pat S is here. Oh man, I thought they were doing Ghostbusters 2016. Your loss, my friend. Your loss. Let's see. Dragon Ruse is here. Sean Estep is here. It looks like we're getting some of the fallout from Salty Nerds because a lot of these guys were over there. We got E. Clay Thomason because I was in there. I don't know if you know that, Tom. I was in the chat. I said something.
I did see
like,
you.
Yeah, I said when I grow up, I want to be Matt Vader.
Well, he's got to grow up first.
Yeah, he's got to grow up first. And then Anima's like, I don't want to date him. No, don't become Matt Vader. So, Mighty Orbots was also over there. Good to see you, man. Monkey Jeebus should be here. I don't see him, but because he was over there. I'm going to be mad if he doesn't show up. Fuck that guy. Fucking Jeebus. He was. Anima said he was the one that said that she was. Because I read that somebody said that she sounded like Frau Frabissida on Young Frankenstein. I'm like, no, she doesn't.
What? Yes. Yeah.
No, she does not.
Yeah.
She does not sound like Cloris Leachman. But I do love it every time she talks or somebody says her name in the movie. You hear a horse neigh in the background.
Well, when I think of Frau Frabissina, I think of oh shit! I just watched the movie just a week ago. Austin Powers.
Yes.
Send in the clowns.
Yeah. She's finally in the U.S. Gerry, hear me out. You should cosplay as Dr. Evil, and she should play as Frau Farbizina, and she should call Scott Lewis like that. Scott.
I don't think I ever want to hear that. I really don't think I want to ever hear her do that. But everybody is joining in. You got the video queued up, buddy?
Oh yeah.
Because we can just go ahead and start it whenever you want. And
here we go.
Now, this is one of the best structured movies I think of all time.
And it's so different than the original script because the first script that was written, Dan Aykroyd wrote. It was as thick as the New York phone book.
Oh,
and
cow.
It was like 3 movies in one. And it was a time travel thing because you're in different times. It was mostly science fiction. You're way in the future. And I think that Harold Ramis coming in and helping rework the script was probably the best thing and probably the only reason why this film ever got made.
Well, you need that because Dan Aykroyd has autism, so he gets super obsessed.
Yeah, he's on the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, it's like with George Lucas. Without Marsha Lucas, we wouldn't have got Star Wars.
Yep. Marsha Lucas and really 3 people. The other editor, I forget his name. And then, of course, Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
Gets a lot of credit for some of the changes he told George to make, including the opening squirrel.
Yeah. I can tell you that with this movie particularly, as a kid, this came out in 84. I remember seeing it at a friend's house in 86, 87. There were certain movies that we would always watch. Ghostbusters, RoboCop, G.I. Joe the movie, and we would always play The Legend of Zelda because that's his mother and his stepfather. That's what they played, and he had an older brother that would have all of it. And that's how I saw this movie, and I'll never forget Sigourney Weaver getting grabbed on the chair. That was, yeah.
Today, as Captain Obvious, we have 6 saying without George Lucas, we wouldn't have gotten Star Wars. No shit.
I wouldn't have known.
Thank you, 6. Now, this girl here, if anybody remembers, when they did the Brady Bunch movies in the 90s that brought the family back, the girl that played Cindy didn't want to come back, and she was cast as Cindy.
Ah.
Till the one day when we met this lady who wasn't Cindy.
In the opening scene before the library scene goes downstairs, there's a guy who looks like Chris Sarandon. And of course, he and Richard Edlund had worked on Fright Night.
Fright Night.
For real.
Actually, funnily enough, I
Judy.
believe
Subscribe.
if I'm not mistaken, isn't the poster for Fright Night based on one of the creatures not used in Ghostbusters?
Yes, it's the and you see it in the movie. The giant bat creature that explodes. That was one of the creatures that was made for Ghostbusters. They reworked it to make it look more bat-like and used it in Fright Night. Saved on some money.
Interesting. Sorry,
love
this
this
just isn't
scene.
your day.
I love this scene. I like when the gum falls out of his mouth when he shouts at the last.
Stop doing that. You're pissing me off.
It's a good character introduction. It tells you that he's basically a fake and he's in it for himself, kind of.
Well, then maybe my theory is correct.
What's that?
You can keep the $5 I had it. I will, mister.
I will, mister. They're right there. $5. I've had it. I will, mister.
All right, what is it?
A square.
Close,
Oh,
but wrong.
You get shocked.
What is it?
A square.
Three
Three
wavy
wavy
lines.
lines.
Oh.
What is it?
The three wavy lines.
It's a square.
Oh.
Close,
And we
but
suck at
wrong.
this.
What is it?
Three
Triangle.
wavy lines.
It's a couple of wavy lines. Very good. And of course, all that's left is circle. Yes, Gary
I'm in the middle of
Ambrosia.
somewhere.
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to send him the link. I forgot about that. Hopefully, he's not busy.
Oh, Gary? Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, yes.
Did
I
you
love
know-
this.
What was this?
It's-
Oh, please! Did you know that before Bill Murray was cast as Peter John Belushi? Yeah, we knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a vehicle for him.
And then he up and died.
He's still technically in the movie because they do say that Slimer is John Belushi.
Yeah, John
but
Belushi
it
in
wasn't.
spirit.
That was like they were just like, yeah, we meant it to look like Belushi, and it's like, yeah, it totally looks like Belushi. It does not look like Belushi. The guy
May not
who's
look like him, but he acts. He sure acted like him in some ways.
Yeah, I think that's what Dan meant more so, is always kind of its personality, because he used to call him Onion Head. So, yeah. Because that was his original name. It wasn't Slimer until Slimer was in the Ghostbusters.
Are you gonna hit
It's
play?
cartoon.
I'm in the middle of something, Ray.
Again, man.
Did it freeze up on you?
Yes.
Wow, we really were in the middle of something and just decided to interrupt us.
Oh, don't worry. We'll be.
But yeah, the actor who plays the kid that gets shocked, he was in Christine,
Wow.
and that's one thing about it. Yeah, we're all kind of cinephiles, and we just love collecting that trivial information.
Well, and
I love
guess,
that light up sign, by the way, Tom.
You're welcome. I guess the big question is, one of the more debated scenes in the film is that scene with these shocks, and that's kind of a scene that's used as an example of how Bill Murray's character Peter Venkman is a bit of a creep.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah, he's an asshole. There's no question about it.
Well,
He
there's
is
no
an
question
asshole.
about that, but people will use that plus the scene later on when we get to it. I'll bring it up. That kind of paint him in a way that I would say is very, very unfavorable. But I think that, he's just he's a bit of a rascal. But I don't know if I'd go to the point where I'd say he's a predator.
he likes
No, he's not.
girls.
He's not a predator.
There is a question of why did he have that much Thorazine on him when he goes to visit Dana?
That is a good question.
He's just walking around with Thorazine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man,
The whole thing with the library it's-
EKE meters.
went off the scale.
Buried the needle. We're close on this one. I can feel it.
I love how he wants nothing to do with it, but just goes along with it anyways.
Well, it's because you can tell, like, that's what I love about these characters is just even when we're introduced to them, that's why they're so perfectly cast and well-rounded. And, Ivan Reitman and Harold Ramis really deserve a lot of credit for that, I'm sure, because you kind of get an idea of who they all are right away. right?
Yeah.
You know, Ray and Egon are clearly the brains of the operation. And Ray is the kid that would always be like, you know, we need somebody to try this. Oh, okay, you go try this, Ray. You know, like, and they probably did grow up with each other or probably went to high school together or something like that. But basically, Bill Murray is just coasting on those two, right? But he's the guy that would get them laid. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the whole, you get their kind of dichotomy without even really having to go through all this, like, nonsensical history of the guys, right? You can totally get their friendship. You totally understand what they're doing together. They're really into this, like, you know, Egon and Ray are really into this paranormal stuff. And Peter's just there along for the ride. And then he sees, you know, he sees the potential in it financially.
The idea,
right?
man. Yeah. Yeah, he sees the potential of being able to make money with it, and with the money comes all the other perks of it. And
exactly,
he's like there's an old saying within metal. You know, metal was always a guys' club until what's the band? British band showed up, brought the chicks. Def Leppard. Def Leppard brought the chicks, and from that point they all got laid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People will be like, why the hell would they put up with Bill Murray if all he's doing is like using them and stuff like that? No, you see the dynamic there, right? Like, he is the guy that got him into all the parties in college. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because Ray and Egon were the geeks.
Well, Ray's not stupid. He does have his own doctorate, so he's not an idiot.
No, but they're nerds. They're geeks, right? Like, they wouldn't be like, Bill Murray is the bridge for them. He's still a nerd and a geek. He's seen as that. But he's also kind of the cool guy, you know. He's suave and a little debonair with the chicks, and like I said, he could go get them dates and stuff like that. That's why they hang out with him. You can tell there's a reason why they're all together.
It's really impressive with this movie because they really don't have like a let's give our backstory moment. There's just little.
Well, that's what I was getting at, right? Like, you totally understand these guys without getting all that. Even the bit where he's like, you know, that totally would have worked if you wouldn't have stopped me. Like, right there is another point where you kind of just get this idea that these guys have been together doing this crazy shit for years, and they've been milking the tit of this college. Which is typical of what guys were doing back then. I mean, and they still do it to this day. They're not really teaching anything that's probably of any value, right? And that's why they end up getting shit canned.
Yeah.
See, I would have liked if there had been like an animal style comedy that was like the movie that took place before this one with them in it. That would have been great.
Well, funnily enough, that's kind of where I kind of get my, I kind of look at it that way because, you know, if you picture Dan Aykroyd in the original script, they wrote Dan Aykroyd or D-Day for Dan Aykroyd. That's why his name is D-Day. Like, that was his whole, because he was the type of guy he was the Motorhead. So you can kind of picture was kind of the real Dan Aykroyd in that sense. But the real Ray would probably be more like Flounder. Right? Like, when he first shows up, and Bill Murray would kind of be like, you know, the John Belushi character in a way. He'd be like a mix between John Belushi and the Tim Matheson character, basically. More so Otter. The Tim Matheson character.
Yeah, Otter.
He's very much that. So, like, you kind of figure that's who he is. And then his buddy would have probably been like Egon, more or less, but just more of a stiff. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I can't remember the other guys who was with Otter the whole time, but like,
and the prop that Egon's holding has been in so many movies. Like, it's in They Live. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones.
Oh, that thing there, that's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's been in a few movies since then, too.
So what do we do? Get her.
Get her.
Whole plan. Get her.
But it was a song, because I saw somebody brought it up. The lawsuit was over the fact that originally Huey Lewis was brought in to do a theme for the movie. And then he left to go do Back to the Future or something. He didn't do it. And then they went to Ray Parker. And Ray Parker's theme sounded like, I don't remember what song it was, but it was something.
So I want a new drug. And it is. It's the same exact chord progression, and there's a lot of elements that are similar. Like, you play them.
And it was settled, by the way.
Well, actually,
right?
This is a funny story because Huey won. Huey won the original case. But what happened was part of the stipulation of the case was Huey wasn't supposed to talk about it publicly. And he went and talked about it in an interview.
Yeah.
So then Ray Parker countersued him back. And so now basically it's kind of free and clear. It's like a wash.
Wow.
So yeah, for a time period there, yes. So technically, yeah, Ghostbusters, the song, which is funny because that wasn't even the original theme. If you watch one of the old trailers in the old, that old making of, I think you were talking about, Gary, I think it's in there.
Yeah.
And it's also in the Show S trailer. There was another song that was called Ghostbusters they were going to use. I don't even know who wrote it, but it's a totally different song, but it wasn't working. You could tell it just wasn't working. It was the wrong kind of tone for the movie. And whatever Ray Parker did that night to come up with that song, because I know he came up with it pretty quickly. I mean, I don't think he actually, I don't think he tried to copy "I Want a New Drug" on purpose. I don't.
The link I have.
I think it was just a happenstance that he heard that, because as a songwriter, you'll sit there and sometimes you'll be writing shit. You're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you're like, la da 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 dee doo 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 doo. And then you realize, oh shit, that's like some fucking nursery rhyme or something.
Right.
You're like, God dang it. You do that all the time as a musician. So I'm sure it was he was in a rush and he just found a riff that he liked and it just so happened to be the same exact chords as "I Want a New Drug" and the same bass line. That's really what buried him, was that the dun 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 really translated to the same bass line in Ghostbusters.
Yep. The link I have with it lists it by Hughes/Thrall, so that's probably some demo guys.
Yeah, it was some other shit. It just did not work. It was crap. You could hear it vaguely in the background. I don't know if there's ever been a version of it released where you can actually hear the song, but
yeah, I have it. I posted in DM and private chat.
Oh, sweet. I've never heard the full song.
I would assume that everybody's seen the documentary on how this movie got made and all the various hoops that everybody had to jump through to make it happen.
Yeah. A funnier one is the actual title, because it was a cartoon, or it was a kid show originally, was Ghostbusters, and then they weren't sure if they could get the rights around, so they were messing around. Then the movie came out, and because the movie was successful, I forget which company, like Hanna-Barbera or whoever had it, they did a whole new one. And then they did when they had to do the Ghostbusters cartoon, they couldn't call it Ghostbusters, so they had to call it The Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that was a big point of contention too, because when they were making the movie, they had to do like 3 or 4 different takes every time, because they call it Ghost Breakers or Ghost Hunters,
the one that sticks out,
or whatever. They had a bunch of them. And so every time they would do like the sign scene, for instance, they started to realize this is going to be a real big pain in the ass. Because, like where the scene where Bill's like, do you think people will see the sign? They had to do that 3 or 4 different times with each different name. So that means somebody had to go up there, take the sign down, put the other one up, and they had to do that over and over and over. And that took like, probably a whole 2-3 days worth of shooting. So they're like, we can't keep doing this shit. And when they got to New York, because they shot the first half of the film in California, and stage and all that kind of stuff. And then they went out to New York to shoot all the exterior stuff. And when they got to New York, they were shooting the scene where the Ghostbusters were coming up to the building at the end of the movie. And I even turned to one of the guys from the studio, one of the execs or something like that. He goes, you better call these guys on the phone right away and find out what we're going to do here. So he got on the phone. He goes, well, what's the deal here? Did we get the name worked out or not yet? He goes, no, we haven't got it worked out. He goes, well, you better work it out pretty goddamn quick, because we got a couple hundred extras down here screaming Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters, and they won't say nothing else.
Yeah, like that was pretty much it.
Yeah, they're like, we got to figure this out, and now. So they worked out a deal with Filmation, who was the company who actually owned the rights, the same company behind Star Trek, the animated series, and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, stuff like that. Back in the day, they had the original Ghostbusters cartoon back in the day.
Well, first it was live action.
Yeah, live action. Yeah. That's what I meant. Sorry. So then they worked a deal out, and Filmation gave them a sweetheart deal on the name, because they were under the impression that they were going to get the animation rights if they ever decided to make a Saturday morning cartoon. Well, they come to find out that wasn't the case. Columbia went with Deke instead. And so when they heard that, they quickly rushed, and that's right, Gary, because like at that point, then they rushed an animated, updated sequel to their live action show.
The voices of Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker.
And they managed to get it out 2 days, I think it was, before the real Ghostbusters dropped on television. So it was kind of F you back
And
and
it's really
forth with
what
that.
led
Yeah.
to them calling it the real Ghostbusters.
And that's exactly it. Yes, because they're like, oh, well, they found out they're doing this thing to piss us off because we didn't go with them. Well, we'll just call ours the real Ghostbusters then.
Exactly. Now, as I recall, though, too, the another difference was that the movie Ghostbusters was one word, whereas Spencer, Tracy, and Kong were called the Ghostbusters.
Yes, and I think that's another way they kind of finesse. Because, like I said, I don't think I've ever heard the exact amount that was ever exchanged, but from what I heard, it was very minimal. Like it was next to nothing. It may be out there, but like, because we did a pretty definitive making of this film in the second film on our channel that came out right around the same time as Netflix's, which pissed me off because everybody's like, oh, you guys just took a bunch of stuff from Netflix. It's like, no, motherfuckers, we were working on it at the same time because ours dropped like the same day or the day after theirs did. And we're like,
how the hell do you
damn it
release at the same time?
I know. Right. And I'm like, yeah, and I can cite all the sources from where I got all this stuff too. So like, yeah, like, I mean, and this movie was a nightmare just in the sense of,
everything.
This was the biggest comedy ever made at that time. They'd never made a movie that cost this much money that was a comedy, technically. Columbia was against the head of Columbia.
I think I remember reading it's the most expensive comedy ever made.
Yeah. He didn't want to make it. The only reason they were making it was because they had a deal with them, and Columbia, somebody in there thought, with Animal House being a big deal, they gave them the sweetheart deal for Ghostbusters. And it was it was also supposed to be like a Stripes reunion at the same time. That was the other thing it was pitched as. And if you remember, Stripes was also a Columbia picture, so they didn't want to lose out on that. But slowly and surely it became evident that wasn't the case necessarily because they couldn't work John Candy in there. So famously enough, most people already know John Candy was meant to play Rick Moranis' role, but he just couldn't get his head around it. And he just finally said, you know what, get Ricky in here. Yeah, because
he kept wanting to do a weird accent, as I recall.
There's a character in... Who's Harry Crumb? I think that's very similar to what he was going to do. If you watch that, he had
some ridiculous accent in mind.
He wanted to be a German guy with Doberman pinchers and shit, and this like elaborate, like it's like totally not what they wanted for the character.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't do that because it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, Rick Moranis is Louis Tully, right? When he's like the dog thing, he's like, well, if I have the dogs, that's the whole thing is because we turn into dogs later on. And it's like, he was trying to think a little too existentially about it, I think.
Too existentially. I love the fact that he does that one take where taking people's coats, inviting them into the party.
I invite clients so that I can write it off on my taxes.
What has slayed me was when he says salicylic acid. And I'm just like going, who fucking says that?
What's funny is I guess he wrote a lot of that crap.
I'm not surprised.
He actually had like what is it before you get a BA or BO or whatever, BS? I don't know, in tax law or whatever. He
had a degree in tax
law. Tax law, yeah, but I can't remember what it's called, the early preliminary thing. But so he knew some of this shit. So he a lot of that conversation, it's just him. Just doing his shtick, Well,
if I remember correctly, during the process of getting this movie made and the whole thing with the names rights, the person that eventually became head of Paramount was the head of a prior studio that came in right as this was finishing up, and he secured or finalized or was able to twist the proper arms to get the name. And of course, Egon there is he doesn't know what he had and what he lost.
I love that. Yeah, because he comes out from under the desk and it's just like, print is dead.
She is. Oh, I love reading. And he goes, print is dead.
That's very fascinating.
I disagree. I think
and that's one of the payoffs for the afterlife is his collection of spores, molds, and fungus that they've.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the funny parts that kind of gives us an insight to who Egon is, right? Like, because she's clearly throwing herself at him.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, well, what do you do with your spare time? I collect spores, molds, and fungus. And then he fucking just walks away. Like, he's like still that nerd in high school, right? Doesn't know how to talk to girls.
Yeah. Either that or he does, but he just doesn't show it. Probably the first.
Right. Hey, I
love
see
Bill
Willie
Murray
the
in this
Monkey
bit.
King's here. What's up, buddy? And Vinkman's girl's here.
Okay, this shot, you jumped over here, but because you didn't get it all in there. But when he comes and leaps over that.
Almost falls on his face.
He said that. Yeah, they said that in the making of it. Like, he almost fell flat on his face because you could see he caught his foot on the edge there.
when Lois is trying to get into the restaurant so he can escape from the terror dog. If you look closely, you can spot a very young 80s pop star Debbie
Really?
Gibson.
Did not know that.
Nice.
But
Wow.
no, what I was about to say though before was like, yeah, so the studio wasn't too keen on this movie. Coca-Cola still owned Columbia at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
So they weren't too hot on it either. But you know, they managed to make it. I think they ended up going $2 million over budget. They didn't know if Bill Murray was going to show up. Bill Murray had also just cost the studio a bunch of money with the Razor's Edge because Dan Aykroyd in his infinite wisdom said, "Oh, you know they want you that bad to be in the movie. We don't get the movie without you, Bill. So just get what you want up front." And so he went in and he wheeled and dealed and said, "All right, I'll do Ghostbusters, but I get to shoot the Razor's Edge first." Well, that means he had to go to fucking Tibet. And then he notoriously doesn't answer messages. So he wasn't getting back to the guys. And then he disappeared for like 2 weeks. And later we found out what he was doing in that 2 weeks was re-editing Razor's Edge and going crazy over the fucking movie, I guess. And then finally, when he knew he was out of time, he jumped on a plane and headed back to the U.S. or wherever he was. He was in the U.S. I don't remember exactly where he was. But anyway, he headed to the set. And he had never read the script. He didn't read the script in California, people say. That because he was a complete asshole on the set, they said. He showed up late because he showed up the day of first shooting and he treated everybody like garbage, they said. But then all of a sudden, when they got to New York, everything changed. And
the first thing they shot was that video commercial, right?
Yeah. And they also think, well, no, that was in New York, I think. Because everything that was interior, like this would be in California, all the stuff that's inside the Ghostbusters headquarters in California. The only thing that was on location would be all the anything that's outside of New York. I think the college stuff was on location. The library stuff was on location. Because like all those exterior stuff is in New York. The building itself is in New York, and they do the exterior stuff. So the commercial would have been shot in New York. But the rumor is that he actually finally read the script on the way to New York. And he realized how good the movie was. And he realized that he had all the best lines because what they had done is when Eddie Murphy, for those who don't know, Eddie Murphy was supposed to be in the movie as well. When he backed out to do Beverly Hills Cop 2, they minimalized his character and gave all the good lines to Bill Murray. So half of the lines you're hearing out of him like are supposed to be like Eddie Murphy jokes because Eddie Murphy was meant to be the average everyday Joe guy and he was supposed to be brought in much earlier in the film.
That makes sense.
So then after he got to New York, he realized, this is my
Zeddemore character is what you're saying?
They mixed those. Yeah, Winston was supposed to be Eddie Murphy originally. And so then by the time he read the script and realized he got freaked out because he's like, this is going to be my best movie ever. And I'm never going to be able to top this. So he didn't make another movie for like 3 years after this movie, not until Scrooged.
Guys, Brandon, do you have something to say?
Oh, Brandon.
Yes, I got to take off. I've got to go. I got to go get my hair trimmed and go pick up my groceries. So it was fun to come talk about a great movie.
Look at that.
Well, I'm letting it grow out again, but I got to. I'm letting it grow, but I do got to take a little bit off so I can spur some extra growth. So, all right, everybody, you take care. We'll see you later. And
see you later, buddy. Have a good one.
Enjoy the movie.
Bye, Brandon.
See ya.
There was creatures running around, and I heard a voice say Zool.
And we have this
thank
super
you for
chat.
the birthday wish there, Dennis. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And for the super duper $2 super chat, what shall we play? Oh, I need to switch over to the main. There we go. Let's see. For you, Dennis, profanity.
You pompous, stuck-up, snot-nosed, English, giant, twerp, scumbag, fuckface, dickhead, asshole.
There you go. Thanks, Dennis.
And now since we're talking about the snarling beasts in her refrigerator.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you one of my most prized possessions here.
Uh-oh.
My buddy Gerry, who was unable to make it today, he's actually at the 50th anniversary of American Graffiti right now in California. But he got the original plate for this. I don't know if you guys recognize this.
Oh, shit, yes.
So this is from the miniature or the bigature of the top of the building. So when we get to the end, keep your eye out because this is the mural that's behind them on the
Yes.
temple.
That's freaking awesome, dude.
It's basically showing exactly what's going on in front of it. Because as you see, you got the two pterodogs here, the temple. But yeah, this is like on the temple behind them. On the temple. Like, it's really kind of cool. You'll see it later on
By
in the
the
movie.
way, have you heard what
Yeah.
the new villain is in the new Ghostbusters, or have we heard anything at all?
Just very little. I just know this one's supposed to be in New York again. And stuff
good.
like that.
Well, they need to get back, and Ghostbusters needs to grow as a company, you know, and I hope they are bringing back Tully.
I know Dickless is supposed to show up again.
Yeah, I saw he's going to be there. The career that made and broke his career in one movie. My God, made him a star and just completely like wrecked him ever getting any good roles again.
I just feel bad for him because people would give him so much shit because he played an asshole so perfectly.
Well, he's a good actor. What's his name? Atherton?
Yes.
Yeah, good actor. I love this, the way he slides down the pole. He looks so terrified going down that pole too. Ecto 1.
It doesn't help that William Atherton played the same role again in,
Die Hard.
Die Hard, right.
Well, not just Die Hard, but more so in like Biodome and
oh God, he was
weird,
in that.
not Weird Science with what's the one
Real
with Val
Genius.
Kilmer? Real Genius. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. He's the asshole in that one too.
Yeah. He pretty much plays the same role in almost every movie. The only difference is in this one, he says one time he's not the scientist. He's a scientist in usually in every other one. Yeah. Or he's
We have
in this.
another super chat from Dennis.
Oh, your birthday is on Monday.
Oh, happy birthday Monday.
We're going to be, what are we doing on Monday?
The
What
Covenant.
movie?
Covenant.
Oh, The Covenant. Yeah, the new movie with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Now here's another example. I can't remember where. I'm pretty sure this is California hotel they shot in for the Sedgwick, but the exterior again is actually in New York. But I can't remember where.
I'm trying to find my Ghostbusters video.
Oh, fun
Right.
fact: Real
the
Genius was
stairs
the
one?
movie he did after
Here it is.
Ghostbusters.
No, I
Yeah,
got
it was not too long after. Yeah.
All right, here's my Ghostbusters video, Dennis, for your birthday on Monday. Boom, babe.
I bet you like to read a lot, too.
Print is dead.
Print is dead. Oh, I find that very fascinating. I read a lot.
God,
This old guy here is great.
Going up, I'll get the next one. What are you guys, some kind of cosmonauts?
Oh, this is great.
Oh, this is one of the best scenes ever. Plus the no smoking side and he's smoking.
It's lit, but Egon's reaction is the best part when he puts it on.
Like
He
it's gonna
just
make a
takes, like,
freaking difference. Like, yeah. Well, that's the big debate of this film. Speaking of Walter Peck, is that if you think about it, even though he's kind of the villain of the piece at the end of
he's
the day,
right.
he's technically right because none
He
of this
is
shit
right.
they have has been
He's
tested for anything.
You have no idea how
Tom.
dangerous or safe it is. It's great.
Tom, Gary, there have been papers written about this. There's actually been people who are legal experts looked into it, and things did come out on the side of the Ghostbusters.
Well, in that case, they're lucky, but in all actuality, I'm surprised because, yeah, none of these, they got nuclear powered fucking proton
Accelerators
packs
on their
backs. I mean,
and that was their successful test. Okay, it works.
yeah. And this is the best part too, because they didn't tell this extra, this chick, or not extra, but this actress here who plays the maid. They didn't tell her what was exactly going to happen, and the explosion was much bigger than she thought it was going to be, or something like that. And it was like so her what the hell are you doing is an actual genuine.
Oh, I love this part where the cigarette dangles from his bottom lip.
Because you got to imagine she's just pushing the cart and it's got a bunch of squibs on it, right? So they just set off the squibs. So to her, it's just this huge explosion in her face, right?
There's Belushi.
Slimer.
I always love when Peter's like, it's in front of me, like how he's actually scared.
He's
I
an
think he
ugly
can hear
little
you,
spud,
Ray.
isn't he? He can hear you.
Don't move. It won't hurt you.
And I think the best part isn't, all the other lines are funny, but when he says, "I feel so funky," just cracked me up when he said that. And I kept this in here so we could see him poke him. Are you real?
Well, and of course, being slimed was one of the points of contention with Bill going forward, because he was not a fan of that, evidently. So much so that it was a stipulation on Ghostbusters 2 that he don't get slimed. So if you notice, that's why he's not in that scene when they all go down in the sewer.
Yeah,
because he was not going to go swimming in the fucking slime. He said no.
And another thing to add with this movie, there's a lot of actually good horror direction.
Well, it's shot like a horror movie, actually, kind of.
You and I talked about this before, Tom, that this is two kinds of films. It's sci-fi and it's horror. It absolutely has horror elements and horror cues. The big thing is, though, that what would normally be a scary scene is lightened because of the way they react to it. And that's where the comedy comes in. This is not a comedy. It's not written as a comedy. It's because there's no shtick in it. The closest thing to shtick being in there is him getting slimed. That
and the opening scene but again, that's where they use what would normally be a jump scare as now turns into a jump laugh because the guys have the, Laurel and Hardy reaction to the ghost, right?
Yeah.
And it's shot in that way too. This whole movie is shot, like you said, like a sci-fi horror more than it is. Compare it to the second film. The second film is shot like a flat light comedy.
Yeah, it's a light comedy. It's silly. And it's in an abstract.
These shots right here. Look at these shots. This would fit in any freaking horror movie.
Exactly. Look at the lighting on this. This is lit like a horror film.
Well, and that's the same thing with Elmer Bernstein's score, right? It was the same thing with Animal House. He said the reason it works is because you take the score seriously. You score it like it's a dramatic film. In this sense, you score this like it's a horror film. If you listen to this score on its own, and you can disassociate. I know it's hard for us because it's so associated with the film. But if you played that for somebody who's never seen Ghostbusters, I bet they would think it's mostly a score for a horror film, except for Bill Murray's theme. That's the only theme that it remotely feels like it's not from a horror movie, right?
Yep.
Because it's just the little piano. Yeah, that's it. That sounds a little more lighthearted. But the rest of the score is a lot of bombastic. They even take that version of that and turn it into scarier bits later on. It is a very it sounds just like a horror film is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. I'm repeating.
No, and I'm in complete agreement with you because I've said that for years, that this is a sci-fi horror film with comical elements in it. And if you were just to take all the comedy out of it, it would be classified as a sci-fi horror.
Well, the beauty of it is you could do it in an action sci-fi genre or horror sci-fi genre without any comedy and it would still work, right? That's how it works. And the humor, like you just said, comes out of these guys and their chemistry and the one-liners
and their interpersonal
and their reactions and their interpersonal
the stimuli, because almost all the comedy in this film is, I love that he pulls the fucking
because there is a fine line, right? You can play it as absurd or you can play it as completely real. Right. And that's kind of also the difference between the second movie and the first one. By the time you get to the second movie, there's a lot of times where the guys are playing it as very absurd.
Well, there's
the courtroom scene is a good example. This one is completely straightforward and sincere.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
They're playing it sincere. This is what made Airplane work, is that the comedy was for us, not for the movie. The movie was being played straight. And by the way, I just got an HD copy of the original movie that Airplane is based on, which is what was it called? H Hour, I think it was called.
0 Hour or something like that.
0 Hour with Dana Andrews. And I haven't watched it in a long time, and I just got a really good copy of it and going to be watching that this weekend. But Ghostbusters is kind of like Airplane in that the comedy comes from us interacting with the character and seeing what the character is doing, but the character is serious on screen. They're being very sincere.
We kicked its ass.
There's also the real life analog, which is that they're basically pest controllers. Like even the way he's holding that, like the way you hold a
rat
dead
trap.
mouse.
He's holding it like a rat
Yep.
trap.
See, in Slasher Fred, that I get what you're saying there, but like Gremlins 2 is well aware of what it's doing. See, that's the difference.
It's
See,
a parody of the
Ghostbusters-
first film.
Yes. Yeah. Joe Dante was basically making a parody of his own movie in that sense. Ghostbusters 2, the compromises made for Ghostbusters 2 had everything to do with toys.
Yep.
It was also it was the toy aspect, the marketing aspect, but it was also a huge nod to the cartoon, which is why Janine is having a relationship with Tully, because that was in the cartoon, not in the film.
Actually, the cartoon followed that after Ghostbusters 2. But what you had at that time...
Oh, I thought they did it before.
No.
In the cartoon, Janine.
Well, it was a bad idea.
She always had a thing for Egon until they changed it in Ghostbusters 2. But what they had happen on the cartoon is ABC, for some dumb reason, had this new company come in and just go through all their children's entertainment, kind of like we have now, going kind of a prototype woke shit, and just kind of go through and changed a bunch of shit. And with Ghostbusters, they deemed it too scary. They deemed, and this is an actual quote. They deemed, I got a paper of it somewhere where they actually say this is too slutty. Like they called Janine too slutty. So they made her more of a mother character.
Oh.
I shit you not. And the same thing with all the ghosts. They had to be less scary. The guys couldn't be mean to each other in certain ways and things like that. It was really horrible. So that then it poisoned the movie, because the studio wanted the movie to reflect more of the series, because the series was a huge hit. It was selling toys like crazy, but it was also reaching A, the end of its hype, and B, the fact that they had changed the series so much. Because you got to remember, the real Ghostbusters was a lot like the Batman the Animated Series. And what I mean by that was they had a lot of adults watching it too. It wasn't just a kids show. And you probably were already adult by that time it came out, right, Gary?
Yeah, I was just moving. I was in the Army, and I was moving from California to Seattle.
But it had a lot of great writers on it. So
I watched it in the hotel, and I'm like, oh my God, I love that show.
The first season is amazing. And you have some great writers. Like, you've got episodes that get into Cthulhu. You've got episodes that are like, there's some genuinely scary freaking episodes, like the Boogeyman episode and some other stuff. But then when ABC got control over it, they nerfed the hell out of it, unfortunately. And that's what bled into the second film.
The most offensive note they had was that Winston should just be the driver.
Yeah. I love this bit. I know, right? I wouldn't call him an adult either.
Yeah. Oh, the funny part about that quote dream sequence is because it originally wasn't supposed to be a dream sequence. No. It was a fight with the MPAA. So it's like, we still want to do this. I'll make it a dream. So it's a dream about being asleep, getting a second
blowjob
off.
It would have made it. Okay, here's the thing, and that's right, because it would have made it in the movie had they had a PG-13 rating at this point. PG-13 did not exist yet. And it's funny that this movie wasn't one of them listed, but Gremlins and Temple of Doom are the reason that year we got a PG-13 rating. Not Ghostbusters, believe it or not. But
Spielberg is the one who
he pushed for it.
And no other director has had more direct contact with the MPAA than Steven Spielberg. And it makes me hate him to a certain level, because they fuck with so many filmmakers, the MPAA, but they've never fucked with him.
He was the golden boy.
Yeah, and it's always pissed me off that he got treated special by the MPAA. So much so that they created a whole new rating just for him, or because of him, but both.
As far as we can tell, and this was in this film is not yet rated, was that the rating system is really a tool of the studio system. So if they really want to give things a hard time, they can fuck with your movie. Meanwhile, Team America, they were told exactly what they needed to change. Whereas when they were doing Orgasmo,
it's really sucks. And what I love is how Trey Parker and Matt Stone really got over on them with Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Yeah, I love that story.
Even the title of the film, it was a fuck you to them, and it was too
Yeah,
late.
that's what we're gonna have to talk about on this show. So
we got to
later, yeah.
because and we got to do the unrated version because it's got the poop on scene with the pudding.
Oh, I meant longer, bigger, longer, and uncut. But yeah, with Team
South
America
Park.
as
I'm
well.
sorry, I'm thinking
Yeah.
Team America.
Both for that matter. All
Both
three.
films.
Orgasmo too. Fuck it.
Oh fuck yeah, I love Orgasmo. I had a good film, man.
Shit, throw basketball in there while we're at it. We'll make a whole month of
what
it.
I was getting ready to say. I like that film. I like Trey Parker and Matt Stone's movies, man. I like what they do. I have Cannibal a Musical too.
Yeah.
You ever seen that one?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's actually
Trauma screwed him over.
Free on YouTube last I knew, but yeah.
Well, what happened was this girl wanted to watch it with me, and she left it at my house, and she never got back. I kept calling her, "I've got your movie," and she just keeps forgetting to come over.
Oh yeah, real quick, my favorite little bit in the movie's coming up. After she goes, and he's actually happy and just does that spin. That's my favorite little moment in the movie.
Yeah.
Hey Tom, we have this question from our audience on Rumble.
Sure.
If you please.
And I heard the real actor that played Winston tried out to play. Oh yes, this is true too. So when they were casting the voices for the series, Winston's real life counterpart tried out and didn't. He got beat out by Arsenio Hall. Actually, Ernie Hudson did. Arsenio Hall played him.
Did I tell you my Ernie Hudson story?
No, go ahead.
It was when I got asked by IDW to do that portrait of I forgot his name. He plays Egon when he died, and that was when Ernie was at the convention that I was at, and we hung out a little bit during the show. It was really nice meeting him, but my daughter has the biggest crush on him, on Ernie Hudson, and she was like 11, I think 12, and we're in the elevator with him, and he's there with I think his wife. And I said, no offense to your wife, but just let you know, my daughter here plans to marry you when she's old enough. He laughed and she was like digging her fingernails into my arm. Because she's afraid of doing things. I'm not afraid of embarrassing other people at all. There's Atherton as Peck.
No, but his whole thing is like, why do you need to, like, that's a good point. Why do you need to see anything we're doing?
Then again, he is kind of, I think, within his rights to ask. Because they really don't. They don't have any permits for any of this shit. None of this stuff was probably passed through any of them.
Worse than that, these things work at a level where nobody would fucking understand unless they were a physicist.
Well, exactly. And that's kind of where they're able to,
skirt the gray line, yeah.
Well, and then not only that, a lot of people are still not even convinced throughout. A lot of people are like, well, by the second movie, I don't get it. Why don't people believe ghosts are real? It's like, you got to understand, this is happening in a big fucking city, but it's in a very concentrated area until everything goes down. And even when it goes down, it's still only just one part of the city. So it's probably easy to convince a lot of people that these guys just pulled off some, prank, right? Especially then when nobody had cell phones. Like what proof do you have that a 100-foot marshmallow man walked his way downtown? You got a few witnesses, but back in the day they didn't have the cell phone, so like it's kind of like whatever. But
well, you look at this though, Tom. We know the Tic Tac videos. We know now that there's shit in the air flying around that's not ours.
Yep.
And when I say ours, human. And yet you've still got people out there talking shit about UFOs.
Yeah. Well, I get it. And because some people have issues with that and leading into the new film, like, why wouldn't people remember the Ghostbusters? It's like, well, not everybody's going to remember. They would be basically like some nut jobs that pulled off some crap in New York a couple of years back. That's the way most people would probably look at them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's the thing about their ghosts situation is it's always flared up by some other entity, right? That's kind of the gimmick of the movies. But no, it's a really cool little story idea to just be about these guys who are just getting started in a business, and of course they should have went through the EPA to begin with. I'm sure there's a lot of licensing and shit they would have had to do.
No, I've had to deal with regulators.
And by the way, there's that plaque right there.
Yep, in the back. Yep, that's
Right
from
there.
the miniature right there. So that's how big it really is that you just saw in my hand.
I thought this was a full-size set. So this is a miniature?
There is 2 sets. There's this
Okay.
set, and then there's the set that they're on later on, which is at the time, I believe, was one of the biggest sets built in California at the time.
So this is the miniature set.
Yeah, so it would be a bigature set, basically.
Yeah, it'd still be close to about, what would that be?
Well, you saw that in my hands, and that was,
7 to 8 feet tall.
you know, just
and
that
about
plaque is
2 feet
2
wide.
feet by like 3 feet or whatever. Yeah, so like the whole thing together is
With
probably
the whole structure about 7 feet tall.
probably.
Oh God, I love this scene because he's so tiny and she's so tall.
Do you think they? Yeah,
Need
they
a
kind of
date?
with the camera, he looks even smaller than he normally
Tonight?
is.
God, he's so adorable.
Well, that's okay. You can bring him along.
I love that he gets locked out of his room after that.
Yeah, he
That's-
keeps getting locked out. He got locked out earlier.
I think
Yeah,
that was
I've known
another.
people like that.
Again, from what I know, that 90% of the shit that Rick did in this was all his improvisation,
I wouldn't be surprised. He's so freaking funny.
or at least stuff that he came up with, like the whole getting locked out of his house and all that shit too. Yeah.
Yeah, and
The whole
and
speech about him climbing out on top, trying to get into her apartment. Yeah, that was him too, I guess. But like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true, Slasher Fred. Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd played 2 bums who Louis runs into.
It was this ongoing thing they kept trying, but it didn't fit with the
They
tone
cut
of the
it out.
film.
It does. It's sort of like the going to South America thing in Stripes. Just fucking doesn't
I
work.
agree. It just changes the tone of the film.
And what
yeah.
sucks is the copy I have of Stripes is that version. And poor Anima had to watch that with me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this scene doesn't belong. It doesn't fit. I don't know why they kept this in. Ugh. It's like, trust your instincts when it comes to cutting a scene. When it comes to pacing.
Like Venkman pointed out here. That was my point earlier too. Yeah.
And this is just a flat out horror movie scene.
Absolutely.
Yes,
This was the scariest scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is shot like a scene in Poltergeist or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I jumped when this happened right here. When the arms
we
come out
have
and grab
we
her.
have to go to break.
Okay,
Break
go ahead. Pause it
time.
now. And ladies and gentlemen, this is time for our mid-show break. This is for our KGRA audience. Remember, this show is supported by ourselves through Fuel Up. It is absolutely one of the best energy. I hate calling it energy drink because it's so much more. I feel so much better as since I started drinking it. It's changed my life. It really has. So if you've not tried it yet, I highly recommend checking it out. Go ahead, sir. Bill, let's get to the commercial. Hi, guys. This is Gerry from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow. We survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA. Hey, and by the way, I wanted to welcome to the show Read by Nature. Marcus is here. He says Marcos in his avatar, but the fact is on Twitter it's Marcus. Genghis Khan is here, and anybody else jump in that I didn't get?
Yes, Bush.
Bush McFadden is here. Bush. Bush. You mix Bush with the sound of banging a bush, and you get Bush. That's what I figured out. It's just straight up math and sex. So this scene really is, by the way, scary as shit. I went to see it. I had just turned 20, so I wasn't a kid anymore, and it still startled me. I'm like, oh my God, with the hands, they did the Freddy Krueger thing, where his face stretched through the wall, which is just fabric. It's a really neat trick that they did. They do it there with the door, with the hands on the other side doing this shit, and it was very effective. And when that refrigerator opens up, man, I was like, oh shit. You took the movie seriously. As funny as this movie is, you took what's happening very seriously, because what was happening to her, Dana. And I don't know about you guys. That's how I feel.
Her entire acting in the entire movie is very serious, very straightforward.
Yep.
The guys are the goofballs.
Yep. It's sort of like, and somebody brought this up earlier, it's like the Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy Ghost Hunter cartoon. And I got to tell you, there's something that happened way before moral people stuck their fucking nose into filmmaking. And that things had peril to it. Like Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer. Boris Karloff. You really felt Lou Costello was in peril. And it scared the shit out of me as a kid watching movies like that, including when Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein or Dracula. Is it Meet Dracula or Meet Frankenstein? I can't remember.
Meet Frankenstein, though. Dracula's basically in it.
Dracula's the main character, but Frankenstein and the Wolfman are in there. And then it ends with Vincent Price as the voice of the Invisible Man. But again, he was in peril. You thought he was going to get killed. They weren't. As children, we knew there was a potential that somebody we cared about might die in a movie. And that was exciting, exhilarating, and horrifying all at the same time. And that they used to do that with cartoons and with movies. And then somewhere in the 50s, moral groups stuck their nose in it and said children shouldn't be seeing that. And that's bullshit, man. That is bullshit.
I mean, hell, modern Marvel, outside of Yondu, who has actually had any kind of terrible death in a Marvel movie? That's any of the lead characters.
Yeah. Well, you look at like my daughter. I raised Zoe in particular on horror films. I didn't really want to at first, but she snuck in and watched The Grudge while I was watching it and hid in the hallway. Of course, she also scared the shit out of me when she did it, because she did that thing, that sound. And I've got surround sound, so I'm like, what the fuck? Nothing. It's the credits. What the hell? And then I turned and I looked, and she's wearing a white nightgown with her dark hair. And that's all I see in the hallway. And I went, oh God, I hope they taught you CPR in school. Oh my God, I think I'm dying. Oh my God. And she's just giggling in the hallway that she might have killed her dad. That little shit. But then she's like, why did she make that noise? And I said, because her throat was crushed when he broke her neck. And her eyes got so huge learning that. And that was it. She was hooked on horror. She'd already seen Aliens, but it was The Grudge. That was her first real horror film. And she's been hooked ever since.
This is another one that's kind of a terrifying one, but it.
Oh, when he's being chased? Yeah. Ever watch the animated special, All Cartoon Stars to Rescue the Main Protagonist Sees Himself? Alf mentions Freddy Krueger. Really? I didn't know that.
To me, though, this actual thing, like this actually happening is one of those terrifying things. Like you're in peril, you're screaming at a bunch of people, and they just don't care.
They just don't care. They just think you're just some crazy person because they can't see the dog. Well, the big problem with the 2016 film was it was written for laughs, and it didn't pay off. There's only one scene in that whole film that I actually laughed at, and that's when what's her name, big ugly black chick, walks down there and sees all those mannequins. She's oh no, and walks away from him, and I laughed at that because I would have had that exact same reaction.
No, Gary, it's even worse because the 2016 was just improv. You can tell because they don't talk about anything of substance. They just
it's
thrown on.
It's not very good. It's a terrible film.
This movie, meanwhile, is like.
Wait a minute, that was a good question. Hold on.
Humor. Put
that back up. What did it cost to have the sofa reupholstered after you soiled it, Gary? Go ahead, Shinatsky. That's funny.
I don't know. The whole thing of like the way they treat things. Even this, is kind of eerie. There's definitely a sexual aspect you don't pick up on in this movie as a kid. That's very obvious as an adult. But this is an important thing about it is that they used to know how to do that. They used to know how to do things where they knew the kids wouldn't get it, but the adults would.
Well, look, man, there's sexy stuff in PG movies, even a little bit in even some of the older G-rated movies. And the fact is, kids know about that because we got parents.
Yeah.
We see that, how they act. It's just stupid the way they want to hide things from kids. But not in school, then they want to tell them everything, But when it comes to movies and books, you got to G-rate it unless it's educating them on gender identity. And it's like, oh, whatever, fuck you.
I mean, I also make the argument this scene kind of points out that he's not as much of a creep because if he really was, he would have just been like, take me, and he'd been, okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, people point out that he has this, whatever it was, the knocker out.
Yeah, the drug.
Thorazine,
yeah.
But they don't stop to think that he probably used the ectomobile to get there.
So
inside they had all that kind of shit in there.
Because he's technically.
We have another question from Genghis Khan.
Yeah, I know. I was getting ready to read it. I was trying to star it, so just in case. But Genghis Khan question: do you all think that the film would have worked just as good if it didn't take place in New York? No.
I think New York works just mainly because it has such a concentrated.
It's an old city. It's an
old city and has a lot of history, and all the buildings have been there for a very long time and that kind of a thing. And
yeah, you could have maybe done Seattle or DC, but definitely have to be a place with like an old.
Well, Seattle is a good setting because it was used for Ghost Story with George C. Scott. I'm sorry, The Changeling with George C. Scott. And
yeah, it was a lot of the gothicness of Chicago would have worked too, probably.
Yeah, cities like that, Los Angeles wouldn't have worked. Not at all. Wrong kind of city. It just doesn't feel old enough. This scene's always like, that's cool the way they did this.
Yeah,
it's the old magician's trick.
I like this when he looks up underneath her and she growls at him.
I like her because she sleeps above the covers. 4 feet above
above the covers.
She barks. She drools.
All right, my girlfriend's a dog.
All right, so she's a dog.
Actually have something of a practice. I'm reading some of these comments. The movie has a cameo by Larry King. He's playing himself. And Casey Kasem. And Casey Kasem's girlfriend is at the party. The big, tall, ditzy blonde. That was Casey Kasem's girlfriend at the time. Did you know that, Tom?
I was trying to remember who she was because I do remember her being somebody, but I was like, yeah, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's Casey Kasem's woman. Yeah. I think Shaggy and Scooby-Doo.
It's another thing with that.
What an asshole.
And there's always a suggestion. Salem.
Well, anything from old country America.
Exactly. Yeah, like a big concentrated area.
It would have worked in Pittsburgh. It would have worked in Philadelphia.
I love this dropping off or picking up. Like this has happened a couple of times now.
Right. It's happened enough now to where
going exactly to my point as to why Peter Venkman would probably have some of that shit with him in the ectomobile, right? Because they've probably dealt with how many people have called up saying their house is haunted, but they're really just fucking nuts. Right. Look, once in a while, you had to have imagined they had to have run into a few of them. So like, this house ain't haunted. This guy's just crazy. So, and they're all doctors. So
I love the line. It was cut off though. It's like, I don't even think he's human.
Yeah, but dropping off or picking up.
Yeah.
There's I think one of my favorite lines in this film's coming up. I don't want to spoil it, but when that moment happens, it's just Dan Aykroyd's delivery of a specific line as they're about to battle. What's the thing called? I forgot the name.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
No,
Zool.
Not Zool. What was
Gozer?
Gozer. Thank you.
When Gozer was a man. It's whatever it wants to be.
It's whatever it wants to be. When they're about to do it, and he steps up there stating, I'm just going to say one thing, as a duly authorized representative. That is one of my favorite lines in the whole fucking movie. I swear to God. Just what a line. And it leads to one of the best jokes later. Yeah, really. And he says, if somebody asks you if you're a god, say yes.
All right, this chick is toast.
See,
he's a sailor in town for a good time.
There's one joke in Afterlife I wish they had done. If he had immediately said yes, and then it went, then die. It's like, okay, no matter what, they try to kill you.
Or you should have said prove it or something like that,
yeah. And the line is, I recall, as a duly designated representative of the city, county, and state of New York, I order you to cease and desist any and all supernatural activity and return forthwith to your place of origin.
Yes.
Or nearest dimension.
Yes. Or nearest convenient dimension. Yeah. Convenient dimension. It's the word adding of the word convenient that cracked me up. I love Egon here.
You might be right, Willie, but I also think that was cut out of sequence because if I remember correctly, those guys driving back, they were actually driving back from the fort. I can't remember the name of the fort.
There was a fort scene. Yeah,
yes,
the fort scene was cut out.
And that, I believe, actually had the blowjob sequence in it. So it all got cut out of sequence from where it was originally supposed to be. So you're correct in the way the film rolls. You might be right.
Because that's why Dan Aykroyd was dressed like that. Because they're at the fort. And I really do like this discussion here because
I believe this is where they're supposed to be driving back from that, if I remember right. But I can't remember for sure. I'd have to go back and look. There's probably people that would know better than me, like Peter Venkman in the chat.
This is basically the end of Act 2 and leading in Act 3.
Yeah, we're now moving into Act 3. Yes, Willie, you're absolutely right. If someone asks you if you're a god, you say
Detmering.
Yes.
Detmering, that's what it was. Fort Detmering. Thank you, Peter Venkman. We should have him in here. Jeez, of course he would know.
It's
it's a she. Girl. I apologize.
That's Venkman's girl.
Did you just misgender Venkman's girl?
Yeah, way to go, Tom.
I wouldn't say I necessarily misgendered.
You're
it's
a
not
fascist, Tom.
I jumped to a conclusion though.
Hey, they're whatever they want to be. Remember the
Well, I only found out because I asked one day. I said, "You keep saying things that make me think you're a girl," because a very female centric approach to things, and you can catch that in the way people say things. And she was, and I was right, and found out that it's Venkman's girl on Twitter, and so I started following her.
He does that again. You could shoot him.
Yep. Oh, I love this.
Don't tell me how to do my job, pencil neck, and I won't tell you how to do yours.
And that guy, I swear to God, he had to be a real cop, the way he delivered that line. Pencil neck. This guy looks like a cop.
shut it down.
Oh, and absolutely, when it looks like he's going to shit his pants, I can't remember who it is that looks, is it not Ernie? Who is it that looks like they're going to shit their pants when he turns it off?
Egon.
Is it Egon?
No, Egon just in the background goes.
Like yeah. Yeah, one of them gets that look like they're getting ready to shit their pants, like, oh. It might even be that kid right there with the helmet.
The one with the helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
somebody does that,
yeah.
and it really looks like he's got to shit his pants. Because
the beauty of, we got to say though, Rick Moranis through this whole bit once he's possessed. Look, he copies everything everybody does.
Yes,
like he's sitting there the pointing, and if you, of course, for years I'd only seen this in the TV and the video version. So like, here's a great example. All this shit here with him is being completely cut out on all the other versions. I didn't see this until I saw it on DVD. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I'm laughing my ass off because of how funny it was. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No,
like,
man.
I just because it was so present in the scene.
Look at this guy. Tell me he doesn't look like a cop. Look at the way he's looking.
Oh, he totally looks like a New York cop.
He side-eyes him like a cop. You shut that thing down,
probably
or we're not going to be held responsible. Oh, man, I love this scene. This confrontation feels so real. And again, that's because of the quality of the acting here.
See, now really, if you want to make an argument for what went down here, that would kind of be like a neutral argument, basically. Because, we like to look at it from the side of, well, we like the Ghostbusters, so we would like to think that Walter Peck's wrong. No, he's right. But at the same time, if he's in the wrong in a sense that he does shut it down without thinking of the ramifications.
That's right? The big problem.
Without taking anything that they're saying into consideration, because the whole reason he is there is because they have all this unlicensed nuclear technology and stuff.
There it is. There's the face. There's the face he made, like he's going to shit his pants.
So him shutting it down actually is kind of a worse move. So they should have been able to sue the city at the end of the day. But anyhow, or whatever, the EPA.
So this set was in California?
Most of the interior stuff, yes, is all in California.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So then here they cut to outside. This is an actual building. And then they actually have used that building in a couple other movies, like The Mask with Jim Carrey. But again, I can't remember if they actually use the interior. If it's, I believe it's a different interior.
And you couldn't see it here, but when that explosion starts, Tom, you can actually see the pyrotechnic tray on the miniature that was used in the composite shot. You can actually see, because it's an aluminum tray with a pin sticking up. And you can actually see it, and it's like, oh.
Well, we haven't really talked about the effects so much, but considering this is probably one of the most effects-laden scenes in the whole movie, it's probably a good time. Richard Edlund and his crew that came on board for this was a lot of guys who had just finished working on like all the Star Wars movies, for instance.
Yep.
And Poltergeist and some other stuff like that. So these guys kind of already knew what they were doing. And you're right. Like, I think the biggest problem they had was the explosion at the end. Because
that explosion and the explosion on top of the firehouse looked really, like it made it look too compositely.
Yeah, and well, this whole thing right here that you just saw, if you back it up, you can back it up. I don't know if you can back it up.
Can you back it up, Martine?
A couple frames here, actually.
Because I like this shot here.
Right there, right where you were. Sorry, one more back if you can.
Didn't move.
You were right in the right spot, and then it jumped on you. There.
That one right there.
Okay, you see that? That's all a miniature and a matte shot. So to the left there, that Stay Puft Marshmallow thing, that's a matte shot.
Well, the buildings in the background look matte. And
that's all matte.
On the left look matte.
Well, you can see
so
here
which part's real?
It changed in
just it'd be right there. He caught the seam right there. Thank you. Yep, right there's the seam.
Right there. Okay, I see it. You can see the difference in color.
And then there's another seam on the left side here somewhere too that they were able to hide. So yeah, what they did is they had the little a bigature or whatever you want to call it, because it was probably about 3-4 feet tall. And then, like you're right, they had a pyro thing shoot out the top. But then the top of the building, they also have an issue with later on.
Only the top of the building in that one shot, though.
Yeah, because he wanted
the ground and everything. It's done the same way as a mat because it's called a traveling mat.
Yes, and actually the top of that building is all a matte shot too, because the building only went up to so high, and then they added So like if you go to New York and try and find the Ghostbuster building,
it's shorter.
Like Sigourney Weaver's building, it's there, but it doesn't have the top on it. Like that top is all added in effects.
On that animation, Tom, was that, I swear to God, it's 84. Was that hand animated or was that some early CG?
These would all be hand animated stuff, actually. This is a puppet here.
Oh, I love
this
one.
It would be like a translucent.
All the puppets in this. The taxi driver, right there. I love that.
That is great.
This is horror movie material. The taxi driver,
right?
It's reminiscent of a scene from Scrooge too.
Kinda.
But
the
no,
Ripper in this is great.
But
Vince Lorthos is loose.
In this movie in particular, they don't make sure to properly shut down the containment unit in the first place.
That's what I was getting at, right? Like instead of actually taking it into consideration, he just shut it all down, right? At that point, he should have basically cease and desist on any further ghost busting. That he would be well within his rights to say, until they could actually investigate the system, right? You don't want to just shut it down though, because you do face not just this, but some kind of explosion or some kind of meltdown of some sort. If it's a nuclear powered thing, how do you know shutting it down isn't going to start some kind of meltdown, right? Like,
well, he doesn't really know it's a nucler powered thing.
He actually believes there's nothing there.
He's accusing them of having storage for chemicals, for dangerous chemicals. So it would be a chaos if there were those chemicals in there.
I love this. Everybody getting this so far. Everybody's around the table listening to them.
Walter's Peck's ash would have been chewed out by OSHA.
Yes.
So, absolutely.
That's what I'm getting at. Martin's correct. Yes, he called in for the chemical aspect of it, but yeah. And we don't know what the frick chemicals they were using either.
Well,
it's hard to say with Egon.
He believed they were lacing the air with LSD to cause hallucinations, is what he believed. He believed there was nothing. It was all smoke and mirrors as far as their containment field. It was not real. He believed at worst that there might be noxious chemicals involved.
Yes.
But the fact is the approach I feel he takes is that there's nothing there, so shutting it down won't do anything. Because he believes they're drugging people to see these things. In the scene,
shutting that down without proof is where I said that they could probably turn around and sue them, but in the end of the day, they're one of the ones that got sued for all the damage to the city.
Yep, because it was their containment field, unlicensed containment field. In the scene where they're all in Slammer, they all look at the apartment's design. All the other convicts look at it's like it's something serious. Yeah, that's one of those funny moments that really isn't comedy, but it's funny because of the way they did it.
Well, and I'm sure like there's an element to the script that probably never made its way through all the different incarnations, and you can kind of see it in the film, but there is this probably like a back and forth. They have it in like the news scene, right? Where people are like, are they real? Are they fake? Are ghosts real? Are they fake? So I'm sure some of these guys are taking them seriously, and the other guys are just like, these guys are fucking wackos. Like, So I'm sure that's kind of where the city was divided on these guys.
And what was the spirit guide? Was it Xandor's spirit guide that they bring up here?
Tobin's
spirit guide.
Which I have the 2016 edition, but yeah.
This shit's so great.
Sucks because it has shit added from the 2016 movie.
Another thing they have in this film is a great reference to the Tunguska Blast, which is really neat. Oh, here we go. We're at the building.
So yeah, this building exists, but as he's looking up here, I believe it pans up.
They do a mat.
And it's a traveling mat, as you said before, at the top.
Yep.
Or I don't know if they show it there, but like, see, that would be,
I don't think
that's
they
a
do
set.
there.
No, that's a set with a
wraparound.
wraparound. Yep. And that there, she's on a set with a wraparound.
And it's lit really well. That looks natural. Yeah. It doesn't look like
probably a back. It may even be, I don't think it's a rear projection, but it's probably just backlit. That's why.
But it really looks real, and I like that. Oh, she kisses him.
It has a bit of a surreal element to it at the same time, because it's like all dark and dreary inside there, but it's still bright outside. It's kind of weird. So the contrast there works to where normally a shot like that would look fake, I would think. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And there's the stairs.
Where do the stairs go? They go up.
Hey, where do these stairs go? They go up.
Yeah.
They still missed a joke on having more stairs, you know, like we just walked up a bunch of fucking stairs.
Oh, when they go up, it's like, how high is it? You know, it's like
when we get to the 18th floor, tell me I'm going to throw up.
Oh, this is such a good confrontation scene.
Yeah. I'm using senses and nerves gas. These men caused an explosion.
Oh, man. And he's still the mayor in the second film, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything was
They have
fine.
to go to
until
his,
Dick
they go
was
to his
here.
mansion.
Because it's got one of the best lines where he's like talking to me. It's like, hey, and he's like, oh. And then the one guy runs interference and he's like, well, he's the mayor. Isn't he supposed to, like, you know, lie to me and kiss my butt?
And of course, this is the famous clip.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together,
Mass hysteria. See, and in the original script, that is one of them that I think still carried over till near the end because I had a script where Winston said that line. So again, you could tell it was meant to be an Eddie Murphy line. But yeah, because the dogs and cats living together line is technically in the script. It's a little different, but yeah, again, I think it's delivered by Winston.
And I think there's an interview once when Ernie said something about that all my best lines went to Bill Murray.
See, and Bill claims he wasn't aware of that. He technically was, but I think he felt guilty about that. So afterwards, in the sequel and everything since, his stipulation for showing up is that Winston gets just as many lines as everybody else. And just as much screen time.
And you know, they should have had him become a doctor. He should have gone to school.
Well, I kind of like in the Interium, we learn that he's now this very successful businessman.
He runs Ghostbusters Inc.
And he's been floating the guys all this time. And, you know, it's kind of this sweet kind of thing, especially. It sucks that it's tacked on at the very, very end of the credits. It should have been part of the movie, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was my big complaint, is that there wasn't enough of the Ghostbusters in Afterlife. There should have been more.
I agree. Dan Aykroyd should have showed up sooner.
Yep.
If anything.
And I think you agreed with me on bullshit with the fight between him and Egon. It just didn't sound true.
Part of it, I actually liked Ghostbusters Afterlife quite a bit.
I do too. Oh,
I
like
can kind of see where it goes, but at the same time, I agree. Like, at least if anything, Dan Aykroyd would have probably taken him a bit more seriously. Like, he would have understood more. And maybe if they'd have had like that kind of a thing where it's like, they kind of have that with him where he kind of like, you know, I should have listened to him, you know, they kind of say. So yeah, it's kind of shitty, but it's like, what are you going to do? You need it for the story. It's one of those times I can give it kind of a pass.
Making best of a bad situation.
And I can't remember the actor's name, but there's actually a well-known established actor who plays Egon physically in the movie. He's been in a lot of TV and film since like the late 60s. And,
I know they had an actor, and it was the director of this movie also was a stand-in for Egon on some of the scenes, like when they're all standing together in Afterlife.
But believe it or not, Harold Ramis wasn't always going to play Egon. Did you guys know that? Even when he was in the writing process, he was still thinking about not being in the film.
Who did he see?
They were looking at John Lithgow and Christopher Lloyd to play Egon. Jeff Goldblum.
I could go with Christopher.
Jeff Goldblum came very close too, I guess.
I could see Goldblum.
Yeah, 80s Goldblum, definitely, before he became Goldblum. Goldblum.
Industrial Light and Magic Fake Clouds. They're really good. They use that pneumatic tank.
Ink injection, or paint or whatever it is,
Paint and ink. And here he is. That's the actor who played the physical body of Egon in many of the scenes in the Ghostbusters Afterlife. And a well-known actor, and I just cannot think of his name right now. He's been in Star Trek.
Yeah, I can't think of it either, but yeah.
Yeah, and this is the scene that really forced the studio's hand.
Yeah, this is where you had all these extra screaming, Ghostbusters, 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 Ghostbusters.
Yep. It's like, hey, I guess our movie's Ghostbusters.
They said within hours of them showing up, they had bootleg Ghostbusters shirts being sold on the streets already. with the logo, like rip-offs of the logo they were selling everywhere on the streets. Yeah.
I'm not surprised, man.
But New York, actually, believe it or not, New York was not too happy about them shooting this movie.
Really?
Yeah, it shut down a lot
I know
of
New York
shit.
City's. I know a lot of the New Yorkers.
They were not happy about it. Yeah,
were pissed about the roads.
So in retribution, believe it or not, because for those who don't know, this was back in the 80s when you could actually open up blockbusters on the same weekend and they actually play because, you know, movies didn't go out of theaters right away. Gremlins and Ghostbusters opened up on the same day. And in most places, Ghostbusters outgrossed Gremlins just barely, except for one. Big
New
market. New York. New York retaliated. Oh, here's one of the match shots. New York retaliated by going to see Gremlins instead of Ghostbusters.
I do love the way they.
At the end of the day, it didn't matter, but yeah, Beverly Hills Cop beat them all, so it doesn't matter.
It is retribution for New Yorkers. Yeah,
but yeah, that was a famous story at the time. Is that a lot of Ghostbusters said "fuck," or a lot of New Yorkers said "fuck Ghostbusters." I'm going to see Gremlins.
I love this earthquake set. This is really done well.
This is one of those things out of like mythology, like you're doing that hero's journey thing. This is like the moment, you know, the death and rebirth moment almost.
Well, what's cool about this is actually on the street. What they did is they brought this in, and it's like half of a car cut off, and all that stuff is just set on top of the street there, and it's just like made to look like it's built into the street like it is.
I did not know this. Vinkman's Girl says Winston was already fleshed out, but we never get told about his military background.
Yeah, he supposedly has a military background. Yeah, he was supposed to be in Vietnam, I believe, from the original script.
We don't really get much of a background on any of these characters when you really break it down.
Because that's the other thing, too, that's kind of a thing about him being the everyday Joe. These guys would have been the right age to go to Vietnam, probably, but they didn't because they were in college and whatnot or whatever. And, like, yeah, Winston did.
Yeah, Harold absolutely does.
Well, it became his signature character. I mean, come on. It's like it was lightning in a bottle. There's so many people that were supposed to be in this movie, but I would not change anything. I love Eddie Murphy. Do I want him in this movie? No. Ernie Hudson is Winston Zeddemore, right? Same thing with, you know, do I wish John Belushi would have lived? Of course I do. But at the end of the day, Bill Murray is, you know, Venkman. So this movie is one of those few rare, perfect films. I can't stress that enough. And with the fact that we got like 3 or 4 of those all in the same year is insane.
Well, going back to even Stripes, when Harold Ramis plays Russell Zisky, he's still Egon in that.
Kind of, but not exact. They're a different character, but I see what you're saying. Like there's kernels of him there. He's more confident than Egon. He's much more of a wily guy than Egon is. Egon is probably the closest you could say to being.
Well, he got Sean Young, for God's sake.
Yeah, well, not only that, like Egon is probably like Egon and Ray are probably early examples of characters who are probably autistic if you think about it, and the way they react and act to people. Like Egon is like the prototypical Sheldon from Big Bang Theory in a way. Because he's the smartest guy in the room, no matter which room he's in, but he has no idea how to handle human emotions, right? For an example. That's Egon. He don't know how to tell a joke. He don't know how to laugh at a joke. He don't know how to talk to a woman. But you talk to him about some nuclear physics and he'll talk your ear off probably. You know, or spores, molds, and fungus. Here's another shot.
Great Matt painting.
Most all of this is Matt shot from the top half up or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing I like, you know, lighting wise, when they're in that stairwell, the top of it is faded into black, so just like it goes on into infinity.
Yep.
I wish I'd watched the movie again before we did this, but like I've seen this movie so many times. Like
it's one of the films that I've seen at least 100 times.
At least, yeah. See, there's the thing I got right there. You can see it really well there, the plaque.
Yep, the full plaque.
Yep.
I've seen this.
And the door's starting to open.
I've seen it around maybe 20, 25 times. I think the movie I've seen the most is like Perfect Blue, but this is definitely up there.
But yeah, so there's actually
another one.
So like when they're in the big shots, it's the actual big set. It's a full-size set. And I believe at the time, if I remember, like I said, it was the biggest stage in California, the biggest set ever, because they used like the whole, there was like, what, 2 or 3 stages altogether they used to build that, I think, something like that. It's huge. It's the whole like top of the building, basically.
I love this shot here. This is such a great scene here.
Okay, she's a dog.
Okay, so she's
the
a
terror
dog.
dogs look so good too, between the way they did with the stop motion and
the hand
puppetry. Yeah.
Oh, this is such a great moment in cinema.
Iconic
history.
Shot too, right?
So it is very iconic.
So iconic that Criterion used it as the cover for their Criterion Collection edition.
Walking through that smoke or fog up those stairs to face death.
Well, what's funny is how they pulled this off with it's just how abstract it is too at the same time. But yet you buy into this whole thing and it's cobbled together with like, I'm sure that half this shit, they weren't even sure if it was going to work.
And here, by the way, she looks like Sheena Easton.
Yeah. Well, you know who this, again, another recast, you know who this was supposed to be originally?
No.
You guys don't know who was going to play Gozer initially?
No.
No.
Oh my God, seriously. Pee-wee Herman.
What the fuck?
I shit you not.
What?
Paul Rubens was initially going to play Gozer. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. As a duly designated representative of the city, county, and state of New York, I hereby order you to cease and desist all paranormal activity and return to whatever dimension you're from. Or God, this is a fucking great scene.
Wow, I can't believe I'm the only one here who knew that. In fact, if you can pause.
No, I didn't know that. I always thought that the intention.
Here's the proof to prove that I'm not a complete psycho. I'm not crazy.
Holy shit. Look at that.
Yeah, he was just supposed to be in there in his bow tie and suit and everything. Yeah. Well, I think that was part of the gimmick, was he wasn't going to sound like that, though, because we already knew what Pee-wee was supposed to sound like. And he would sound like she does, basically.
You know, it would have been hilarious if they had gotten him to be Stay Puft instead, so it was a giant Pee-wee Herman coming to kill them.
Herman, I kill you. I'm so sweet.
He said what to your father years ago?
But they wanted to go with something a bit more androgynous, believe it or not. At this time, that was actually the way they were kind of going.
He
with
was
this.
very androgynous.
Well, yeah. So they went to the other direction though with this model. I can't remember her name, and clearly that's not her voice, obviously.
But it really does, the makeup and everything, and the hair. Sheena Easton. That was the style she used back then.
Well, that was one of my only complaints about. Well, there's a few, but I mean, one of the main complaints I had about Ghostbusters Afterlife is when they bring her back, they went too detailed on her costume. It's like, well, I wish they would have just went with what they did here. It's fine. You don't need to make it, look modernized or something like that.
It's the whole problem with wanting to one up your predecessor.
Kind of, but I mean, I get it. At this point, they barely put her costume together, and it works just because it's in the dark environment, the way it's lit. But like, if you watch the new movie, you can see like they make like she's not wearing high heels. It's actually like she's got like, it's actually like part of her feet, like she's a demon or whatever kind of thing. Like it looks like it's, you know what I mean? Like they made it, they changed how her outfit looks and stuff. It's kind of weird to explain without showing.
And they got that weird alien-looking actress to play her in part of it too.
Yes, yeah, they make her more alien than ghost.
Oh my God, this scene. It says, "Clear your minds, don't think of anything." Choose
Ray, what did you do?
Of the destroyer. Goes of the Gozerian, goes of the destructor.
Such a great word, destructor.
Yeah. It's one of those things I tack on to the end of words. Like, I don't call a refrigerator. I call it a frigidator.
Goes of the frigidator.
And Zoe's does too. She still does, because I raised her saying that and a nucleator. instead of a microwave.
No, but another thing I love with this whole thing is how actually H.P. Lovecraft this entire thing is.
You can tell Dan Aykroyd's thinking, "Oh, no, we didn't choose."
Trying to remember what the original thing was before they did the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I know there was a Marshmallow Man in the original script too, but that was early on. Oh, shit. Peter Venkman fan site might know.
Yes, the Gozer looks more alien in the new.
I think it was supposed to be like a cartoon character. I can't remember. Yeah, actually, I'm sharing it in the background here if you want to. Put it up there real quick. This is from the newer version. Which, yeah, I didn't think they had to go to that extent.
It just they went the extra mile, which wasn't necessary.
Exactly. Just did like the original. No reason.
I think that if they made it look more like the original, it would have worked just as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a thing called.
And here it is. This is great. Again, this is a great composite shot of miniature building mixed with real buildings and real traffic, and that fucking big goofy grin. And Dan Aykroyd's like, how could it be so? It couldn't destroy anything. It's like the happiest memories of my childhood.
I'm trying to remember because I swear it was an actual mascot in the original movie or the original script, and of course, Stay Puft is a made-up brand. And the Marshmallow Man just basically being like the Twinkie kid or something like that, like the Pillsbury Doughboy kind of a mascot. But I can't remember if there was a different one before or not, or if it's always been. I know there was, like I said, I know there was a Marshmallow Man in the original script from like Dan Aykroyd's big, huge script, but that actually came early on because, like you guys were saying before, they were like time traveling Ghostbusters in that one all over the place, and there was a bunch of them and stuff. Yeah,
that's a great line. Back up, man.
Ray's gone bye-bye.
I'm terrified beyond rational thought.
That's what I mean earlier, right? Like he doesn't know how to emote.
It's like just saying that shows that you are not beyond rational thought. Yeah, Olivia Wilde is Gozer. That's it. Olivia Wilde plays it in the new film. Cap Wakanda, Gary. We hung out with T'Challa.
We were roasting marshmallows at Camp Wakanda.
Some of these effects, the composites that were done, were really, really difficult for ILM, and they pulled it off, man.
Well, it wasn't ILM that actually did it. It was Boss Films. That's what I was trying to say.
Was it Boss Films?
Richard Edlund, he took a bunch of guys from ILM, basically the guys who worked on Star Wars and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. They broke from him. And oddly was invited back after leaving because he worked with Dykstra.
Well, they all worked with the same people, and that's kind of what it was. It was almost like they were the B team.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like they ended up working on Poltergeist and a bunch of other movies that probably ILM would have worked on had they had the time. Right? Like that was the thing. We got to remember ILM was in huge demand at this point. They were doing everything for everybody. So Boss Films was, just they were a necessity at that point, and they did a lot of this stuff, but it was almost the same people really at the end of the day. So you're not wrong there, but yeah. So,
here's that. There's a great composite right there.
Oh, there's some great shit. This whole thing is just composited. Like most of this is composited with the set material, which is very well done for 1984.
Oh, it really was for 1984. I would say 90% of the effects in this film stand.
You can see the money they spent on this movie on the screen.
Yep.
At that time.
Absolutely.
Because I think Temple of Doom even cost like twice as much as this.
Yep.
And you could argue that they don't even have nearly as much cool shit in there.
Nope. This is a visual
there's a great shot here too, which is just, him, fading away from being melted.
Being melted.
This is the shot we were talking about
reminiscent of Raiders, by the way, when Tote dies, he melts. I love the way
this is what they couldn't get right. They could not get the blast the way that Ivan Reitman wanted it. So I can't remember how they ended up getting it done finally. I think they ended up tipping it. It's like flipped over or something like that. Because they couldn't get it to blast out of the sides. And they did a similar thing on Die Hard.
They wanted it to blast that way.
Yeah, and they had a similar problem on Die Hard, so they ended up doing it the same way. I can't remember if they do it upside down or sideways or something like that. But it was the way they did it to where they could have the blast and it was positioned to where it would. I think it's upside down, but yeah.
Yeah, because using pyrotechnics, they did the same thing with Independence Day in order to get the flame to go down.
See, and that's on a long way down.
Flip it upside down.
We're looking down, like down to the floor is what we're seeing, but it's because of the angle. It looks like it's down a street. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Because they wanted that rolling effect of the fire. The Independence Day is another movie where most people think a lot of it's CGI, and you realize no, it's not.
It's all
90% of that shit's practical.
Yeah. Because a lot of them thought the fighter scenes were CG, and it's like, no, they're practical. And George Lucas ironically met with them during the premiere and said, if you guys ever need my help, let me know. And they're like, we got it. Centropolis has got it. We got our own company.
Well, and they end up redoing the shot. That's one of the only CG shots in the movie is the famous White House scene, because the one that was in the trailer was never meant to be in the movie. For those who don't remember, not to go into ID4 territory here, but that was actually just meant for the campaign. And then when they saw the reaction to that in one of the trailer screenings, they're like, well, we got to put that in the movie now. So they use it nearly the same shot in the movie, but if you notice, there's a difference between the trailer shots and the movie shots, and that is the helicopter and the angle is just different, just slightly different, the angle, and they got the helicopter in front of the White House in the movie itself. Absolutely. They don't have the helicopter in the trailer, but yeah, that's one of the few CGI scenes, and I can't remember. There's only like 2 or 3 other CGI scenes in the movie, but
I've always loved the music during this scene.
Oh yeah, it's the hero music. By the way, Abdulio, $2
theme,
super chat. Ghostbusters is basically a reimagining of the Dunwich Horror. Well, there is something Cthulhu-esque about it. It's apocalyptic, and you get more of it in the game. And the game is a legitimate sequel to Ghostbusters. I don't know if you feel that way, but I do.
There's a bit of debate because certain people have said that it's not canon, but then again, there's things in the new movie that kind of almost make it canon in a weird way because of characters that are in it, and they almost have like nods and homages to it, and it could still fit in the...
It absolutely, in my opinion, fits perfectly.
We'll have to see how they handle it when we finally get back to New York in the 4th film here, but yeah, I can see what you're saying there to a point, I guess.
There's kind of a problem because instant like Vince Glortho, I forget where Igor Shandor is in the game, and then he's in the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie as well. But
it's like a nerd.
Oh, and who plays him? A big name plays
Murray's brother, the guy who was the mayor in Groundhog Day.
But it's basically the same kind of. He did the voice, I think.
He gets possessed by him. He's like the actual mayor, and then he gets possessed
in the game. Yeah, but now in the Afterlife movie, all they have is his body encased in that stuff, and it looks just like he does almost in the game. So that's where I said there is a little synchronicity there, and there's also like I can't remember. There's a background Easter egg too that's like a callback to.
J.K. Simmons physically plays.
That's right.
Yeah,
yes.
J.K. Simmons is him in Afterlife.
Yep.
Yep, that's what I was trying to think.
And that was kind of my only real complaint with Afterlife 2, other than the few minor things we're talking about as far as on a big scale, is like, why did we have to do Gozer again? Why couldn't they have just come up with another...
It's like something continuing the same curse and all the shit that was building up. Don't bring something back, make something new. They're going to have to with this new film.
Right, and that's what I liked about the second film.
It's the Death Star thing. It's stop making it a Death Star.
Right, and that's what I loved about the second film. The one of the positives is you've got, Vigo the Carpathian and how he's using this mood slime under the city to make ghosts and manipulate everything. Like, I like that idea. It feels like, another episodic thing. Like, they could have done something Cthulhu related, for instance, in the third film. Like Egon figured out that these creatures are going to come through another dimension.
Felt like it was very Cthulhu-ish. And I liked that. It was very scary. The game was kind of scary.
But they're actually ghosts of ancient monsters who don't realize they're dead or something. Something fun like that. Like you can do some really interesting. You don't have to go back to the well so much.
They had plenty of stuff in the actual cartoon. Why not get Joe Straczynski, who is the head writer for the animated series?
Oh, they had to have brilliant stuff. You remember the Hare Krishna on top of the car? That cracked me up. Can't go anywhere, not run into him.
Oh, these are all extras and stuff, right? Like, I mean, other than probably like some of the reporters and stuff there that are clearly on this side of the line, but I mean, like I'm sure the Hare Krishna guy just showed up.
I mean,
by the way, for Abdulio, here is your video. I'm going to play this one again because I like this video.
Hey, where these stairs go?
They go up.
They go up.
So thank you very much, Abdulio.
Bill should have said no more stairs.
Yeah, that scene when they're walking up the stairs is so freaking funny.
No, they could have actually had them take on Cthulhu or like a Cthulhu cult.
Right. They did in
the
shows.
Something they would do. Reach back to some of the classic horror and bring it back. Allergic to shaving cream, if I remember right. A lot of people are. In the movie Super Troopers, the actor who got covered with shaving cream and put in the locker absolutely had a rash and was burned by the shaving cream.
Well, not only that, it's you got to remember they're dumping that much on these guys, and there's menthol in that too, so it's going to burn your skin on that with that much of it. And so yeah, but what he's referring to is basically they had these, I believe they were garbage bags.
Though, girl. They're both
they had
creators.
Garbage bags full of shaving cream, and then they would just drop them. That's how they got the big plops all over everybody.
Yeah, just
but Atherton said that the first time he did it, because that's not the first take, obviously, in the movie. First time they hit him with it, it hit him so fucking hard that he hit the concrete, like flat on his back.
Oh, shit.
It was like, oh my God. He said it was like a ton of bricks hit him. So clearly they had to redo it again because, they wanted the whole, like, him. So they had to, I think they eased back on how much they dumped on him or whatever it was. Something to that effect. They got it in the second or third take, if I remember right. But like, yeah, the first time damn near knocked him out. It was hit him so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, people think that
you got to remember that's heavier than water in a way when you get it all together like that in a big,
it's got
huge
mass is why. And here's what freaks people out. Like when I tell them, like, you see those bags in what was it, Batman, the second movie,
Returns.
Dark Knight,
where Dark Knight,
the money bags. I said each one of those bags weighs anywhere from 250 to 400 pounds.
Right.
In real life, if it was full of money. Money is heavy as fuck.
Well, that's why I like the Italian Job, right? They think about that crap in that. They're like, they need the 3 Mini Coopers to be able to. Well, both really. They both work under the same kind of mentality. Is that we need these Mini Coopers to be able to haul this much gold, and how much can we fit in here before it bottoms them out and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they think about all that stuff. Yeah.
And but in movies you'll see people running with those things. It's like, you're not.
They never stop to think about some of that crap. Yeah, like, or they'll do some bank heist, and it's like, you really think about how much all that gold or whatever weighs? You gotta have a way to transport it. Like,
I mean, gold is so heavy. It's dense like lead.
Yeah,
very heavy. Patrick Jordan joined us, and Monkey James is finally here, and of course Abdulio.
Hey, Monkey James.
It's good to see you guys. We're at the end of the show, dude. Man, God, that was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
I like doing this.
There's so much more we could talk about it too. That's the sad part, but like, yeah, it's a.
Well, one thing I've been talking about doing, and I don't know if you'd be interested in doing, is continuing the show on YouTube for an extra hour, and for shows like this.
Sometimes I might be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just however long it wants to go over. We have to end it on KGRA at the top of the hour in 3 minutes.
Well, and then the beauty of it also gives us incentive to talk about the sequels and stuff like that too. So
no, absolutely. I know that I read all of H.P. Lovecraft, dude. Yeah, great story, and I agree with you. And you didn't have to pay $5 to tell me that, buddy, but I'm glad you did. Thank you.
Yeah, Abdulio, I agree. Like they could have gone like a route like that in the third film, especially. Like I said, like have a Cthulhu.
Here's my big complaint about that film. Two major complaints. One, the Ghostbusters don't arrive until the final part of the third act.
Right. Yeah.
Two, the member berries were almost overdone. And
especially when you get to, if you bring Gozer into that and all that business, yes, absolutely, I agree with that. Yeah, and I agree too that they should have been in it.
That was my big complaint. It was that we needed them earlier, and we needed less of the goddamn member berries, because we all love Ghostbusters. We just want good Ghostbusters. That's all we want. It's a good story, enjoyable.
And that was their biggest hurdle, actually, was getting us to like the new characters. And guess what? I personally like the new characters, and most people I talked to did. Some people didn't. I totally understand some people who didn't. But I felt like from the opening scene onwards with that kid, I'm like, that's Egon's granddaughter. Like, obviously, like she just encapsulated everything that made Egon, but in a new way.
The line that does it for me with her is that the mother says, "Oh, you'll make some new friends," and she says,
"We have another super chat from Abdulio."
Oh shoot, another one. I just mean Ghostbusters and Dunwich.
Oh yeah, well we got you.
Absolutely.
Shanatsky, you were saying, sorry.
Oh, I was saying the line that cinches it for me with her being Egon's granddaughter is the mother says, "Oh, you'll be able to make friends," and then she just responds, "Make them out of what?"
Yeah, that's an Egon line. Exactly. She has a lot of Egon lines. That's what I love about her.
Here's your video for both of your super chats.
I want to offer you a full promotion, right? Better hours, better pay, better parking space. In fact, Kyle's parking space. Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
I loved that movie.
I do too.
I did. Did you? So you guys have all seen that yet, or not?
I've seen it and I loved it. I laughed
my ass off at it.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Say fuck you, Kyle.
What movie is it?
That's Renfield.
Renfield. I'm a codependent, and I'm codependent. Like it's a shield. I don't know. I thought that was funny.
They did not do that movie justice with its advertising campaign.
Not at all. Not at all. That movie absolutely should have.
And Nicolas Cage, oh my God, talk about chewing the scenery.
But he does it so eloquently. Dracula scenes. The two of them both doing classic Dracula scenes where they are in the set from Dracula, 1933.
Yeah, they're
great. On the set. I'm like, oh my God, that was fucking awesome, dude.
It's time to say your thanks.
I know.
It is time to say goodbye.
So I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you for the super chats, Abdullah, everyone. I want to thank, let me get to the private chat here again. I got to read the names. I want to thank Comic Relief Crusader, Penny, Slasher Fred, Dragon Ruse, Pat S, Mighty Orbots, E. Clay Thomason, Sean E. Step, 6, Lady V Elements, blah, 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 Peter Vinkman Fan Site, Monkey, Willie the Monkey King's Music, Dennis McCullough, Read by Nature, Marcus A., Genghis Khan, Bush McFadden, Patrick Jordan, Monkey Jeebus, and Abdulio, and Patrick
and
Jordan
now,
is the chief.
Keto Simple.
And Keto Simple, Dustin's here. Good. Everybody have a good Saturday. Hey, bye.
Those sons of bitches.
Ma, I'm doing a show.